Hello, Timo.
Hey guys.
Hey, great to see
Hey,
you. Well, this is Timo,
Good
our
to see you.
second.
How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. This is quite exciting. So it's quite yeah. So this is the first time we do this event, of course. So for us, it's yeah, really exciting times. How are you?
Very good, very good. I've been looking forward to today. It's
Okay,
I I have a lot to show. So I think it's been quite fun to prepare.
cool. Yeah, so maybe I will shortly introduce you, Timo, for everybody who's maybe not on LinkedIn, because I think yeah, we haven't spoken before one-on-one, but I've been following you for quite some time online, and I think you are doing really impressive stuff there, because you're also an engineer by background, structural engineer, if
Yes,
I'm correct, and
yes,
have been working with computational design a lot at Ramble, for example, as well.
yes,
Um, and yeah, next to that, lately I think you started for yourself, right?
yes. Just had half a year anniversary a few months ago. So
congrats on
Congrats
that.
with that.
thank you.
Still alive.
Still alive, still having fun.
Nice. Yeah, so before I'll let you start, I would like to mention again, so if anybody has questions, you can ask them in the chat. Ananda will check them out, and then at the end of the presentation, we can make sure that they land at Timo. So without further ado, Timo, I'd yeah, go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you so much. Maybe just to introduce this presentation a little bit, my goal with this presentation is to kind of show programming for people who don't care too much about programming. So it's not about developing big grand tools, but more about how you can use programming to actually do better engineering. So have it as a tool to do your daily tasks in a better way, which is what I have been using Python for a lot. So I want to show some examples from my own work and from my own free time as well. So I think I'll actually just get to it. Maybe one thing I just quickly want to mention is that the reason I wanted to do this presentation was because I have seen how some of the little tiny pieces of code that I have written have suddenly been used by people with no programming background. And suddenly I saw a spark of interest in learning how to code. So I thought it would be quite interesting to show it from that perspective. So let me share my screen here. Let's find the right one. There you go. I'm just gonna like drag some windows onto this screen as we go along when I show different examples. So this presentation is as much for me as it is for you to make sure that we keep on track. So the first little tool I want to show is related to find element software called ETABS. And in ETABS you have some like, not in my opinion the most beautiful outputs of data. It can sometimes be quite difficult to get a meaningful visualization out of a building's behavior, and it can be quite difficult to communicate this information to other stakeholders. So what often happens is that different companies develop all sorts of extremely complicated Excel templates that only one person know how to debug, and a lot of errors happen. And I didn't like that too much. So the output from a program like this typically looks something like this here. So you have different sheets with different information in it. And I thought, how much can you program of this without actually doing any coding yourself? Because like I have learned to program in a bit of the old school way, but now with tools like ChatGPT being available, you can actually do a lot of this programming with an absolute minimal amount of programming skill. So I actually took this Excel sheet I just showed you, and I uploaded it to ChatGPT. They have this like detailed analysis or data analysis module. So I just said, hey, I have an Excel sheet that looks like that. Can we convert it into something called a pandas data frame? That's something that Python uses. And then ChatGPT goes along, starts actually writing code for you. It sees, hey, I made a mistake, do a new piece of code. And then I actually talk back and forth with it. Say, hey, can we load this other Excel sheet in? It writes the code for me here. Can we merge the two sheets as well? You can see it does a lot of work here. Now, can we make a plot of some of these values based on an X and Y location? And then it did this really ugly plot here. I was not too happy about the quality of the plot, but it's worth noting that I have just given it 3 prompts and I'm already actually having a plot. And you can see I continue the conversation down here. But what I then did was that I took this code and put it over into my own code editor. And then I basically just like took these different steps that I got from ChatGPT. I have maybe changed a few lines here and there. But apart from that, I was in 5 minutes able to create a script that could take this ETABS data and plot some, in my opinion, quite beautiful reaction plots from the foundations of this building. One of the other benefits of this is that I can ask it to just loop through all the different load combinations that I have in a file. And you can see as I go down here to the bottom of this file, I start plotting all the different load combinations I have. And I've also asked it to mark all foundations over a certain limit. So this is one of those tools that I have developed actually probably more than once. Because in an iterative design process, for example, a foundation design, you need to iterate and you need to show the same information over and over again. And you don't want to have to sit and pull that through Excel. It's a waste of good energy when you can write a script like this in 5 minutes and get a really, really beautiful result out, in my opinion. And just to go with this talk about ChatGPT and these AIs that are coming out like crazy, I did a little bit of testing with it the other night just to see how far can I get with just uploading a sheet and telling it everything to do in one step. And in one step, it actually got me this far. So I think one of the very powerful parts of that is that you can get very far in writing some code without knowing too much about it yet. But you, of course, need to know enough to be able to debug it. But when I wrote a tool like this, the first time, it probably took me like half a day to a day. And now it took me 5 minutes. Then the next thing there's a lot of slides for that. The next thing I would love to show is another little tool that I made a while ago. And that was I had an old car that broke down. And that was, of course, a bit annoying because then I needed to buy a new one. And I know absolutely nothing about cars. So I was like, the only thing I know about is how to program. I can write a little script. So I know we have this Danish web page that where you have all the used cars for sale. And again, I used the ChatGPT as it was at that point to help me write a little tool that can help me get the information out from this web page. So with the help of ChatGPT and an evening at home, I ended up writing a little tool where I could look up for a Skoda Octavia Combi or any other car I would like. It's not very beautiful coded. It's really messy, this one here. But the fun thing is that suddenly I could find all cars for sale in Denmark and rate them like how far have they been driving, what is the price of the car, and what year were they produced. And then I could look up different brands, and I could see, oh, I found a car that's like this, and it's located here. That's probably a good price then, because it's at this front here. Then could also do another plot here. It's a bit tight down here, but you can see how far they've been driving, and then can't remember what I have on the other axis here. I think this plot up here was significantly better. What I want to show with this here is that you can encounter some little day-to-day tasks where you're frustrated about, for example, like an available amount of information, but you feel you can't really harness it, or you feel that there's a task that is extremely repetitive, a lot of copy pasting. And I have kind of refused to do those things manually. And yeah, then I maybe end up sitting a full night of programming this, because I also didn't know about web scraping before I started this. But then you can actually build a little tool that can help you with that task that you are encountering. So let me go back to the that was the used car tool. Then I cannot talk about engineering Python in engineering without mentioning also Connor Förster, I think you pronounce his last name, who has been building some absolutely amazing tools for Python as well, that you can use to do really nice reports in Python. So we probably all use MATLAB, or a lot of people just use Excel actually to create reports. But Connor, he has released some Python components that you can then use to actually create reports using Python. So right before this presentation here, I actually just very, very quickly made a little document just to show like very simple calculations, how nicely it can be done in Python. And you can print this to a PDF that looks even nicer and not in a dark mode. So in this case here, you can say, okay, you have a beam calculation. This is a beam calculation. You have some parameters. It writes it very nicely down here. And I can calculate the moment, and it expands the formula. And now you might think that, yeah, you can do that in any other reporting software as well. And that is very true. The difference is that here you have access to an insane amount of visualization libraries and a lot of calculation packages. And you can also go a step further and start doing some looping of results. So for example, in this case, I want to find the length that satisfies a maximum moment of 40 kilonewton meters. So I run this script, and I see that I have a length of 8.93 meters. That gives me a moment of 39.95 kilonewton meters. Simply by iterating through some values. And I want to mention with this that, of course, this is a very simple report, but as these reports get bigger, it's an amazing way to actually write it, because you can easily change the input parameters, you can loop, you can save images automatically, you can export it, and you can create beautiful plots. So it's a very, very good reporting tool that as soon as things get a little bit more hairy, this is definitely my go-to report writing tool. Now, the next thing I would like to show is an ETABS tool, again, related to tower design. And this is from quite some years ago, when I first learned Python, and when I first learned how to use these Excel libraries inside Python. And after I took this course, I decided to build a little tool where I again could take some ETABS data and create plots automatically, because I was sick of doing it manually. So I just drag that one over here. So it's what I call the ETABS graph maker. When I look back at it now, it's not a very good piece of code. It's just not a very good script, but it works. So basically give an instruction to a user what they have to give to this script. Like you need to export some tables from ETABS. And then it would go through a lot of lines of code. We don't care about that for now. What we care about is that you get this automatic creation of plots that look quite nice. So for all wind combination, it would create these displacement plots automatically. It would create some drift plots automatically. And it would also create the force distribution plots, where we can see in this case how much force goes to different parts of the building. And the cool thing is that I do it for all load combinations at once, and I just save the files to a local folder. So that way, when I come back and I want to see this plot for another load combination, it's already saved in the folder. I don't need to create it. When I change my building, I just regenerate all these plots without doing anything. So for me, it's a huge time saver, and I get a better result at the same time. So that is probably the first tool I really made out of need, because I was really, really sick and tired of doing plots like this manually. So I thought there has to be a better way. So I created this one here. The last example I want to show is a little free time project I've been working a little bit on to see if it was possible to do in Python. And it's based on like footfall vibration in structures, where I've always thought that I've been really annoyed to have to switch between different softwares when I have to do vibration analysis in buildings. So I made a little tool where I can take the output from one finite element software, and I can convert the result output of that to a vibration analysis based on this guide here, design guide for footfall induced vibrations. And this is quite a heavy piece of code. I want to show you the actual right piece of code here. Wait a second. This one here. So like it's a bit of a bigger one, but I just basically load in an Excel sheet. I say I have some criteria here, some damping and some like weights of the people walking on it and different walking frequencies I want to check. And then I run through a lot of code. And this is Excel data from a software called SAFE, so a find element software package. And then I get down to the end here, and I start to be able to make these beautiful footfall vibration, response factor plots. And I can also get actually some plots of this is a bridge I'm checking here, where I can check what is the max response factor for this bridge, and also like visualize the different modal shapes of this bridge, all by doing post-processing of some data from a find element software in Python. And where I've seen where I've been previously, we've often used one piece of software for vibration checking and another piece of software for other checks, rather than just having one piece of software and post-processing the output data from that one. Yeah, and this one here is just to show that I really like to use Python to make nice plots, to visualize different things. I think it's very, very powerful for that. So these were the many examples that I wanted to show in the time I had. I think the last thing I want to mention is where to get started with these things. I have personally been very happy about this free course, Data Science for Construction, Architecture, and Engineering at EDX for working with Excel data in Python. For that, it's really, really powerful. And then I also have to mention that I am working on a course myself called pythonforstructuralengineers.com, which will be with this very pragmatic approach. How can you use it for day-to-day tasks, like some of the things we have seen here? And I'll just put this one up, so you can sign up to be notified about the course. and then I'll let you know whenever it becomes available. And yes, I think that was what I had on my end. So now we can go to some questions.
Nice, Timo. Thank you so much. I really like this presentation. Really cool that you just really showed a lot of stuff on screen. I also the ChatGPT. I recently joined a hackathon, and I don't program that much anymore. So I was really surprised how much it helped just with indeed. If you're a bit rusty or you don't have that much experience yet, it's just so fast to use it. So there's also a question I think related to that later. We'll ask that later. But the first question actually we had is because I always saw you was a really big Grasshopper fan.
Yes.
So how do you see that? So when do you use Python? When do you use Grasshopper? How and when did you fall in love with Python as well?
It's a very good question, because of course I'm sitting in Grasshopper now, like all day, every day with my new work. It's really fun, and that is my home turf, so to say.
Yeah.
But I sometimes found myself trying to sit and do data management inside Grasshopper. Like I would use Grasshopper to load Excel sheets in and then work on the data there. Like this is just like not what Grasshopper is for. Grasshopper is for geometry and like spatial data. But anything that is like 2D visualization or anything that is related to large data sets, there's no need to go into Grasshopper. So that is where I have kind of fallen in love with Python, and especially because the plotting capabilities are so good. When Grasshopper, you can't make nice plots, you can't make nice data visualization so easily, but in Python it comes straight out of the box.
Yeah. Cool. Anande, you had also a question for Timo, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I have used ChatGPT too, and it's impressive how fast these kind of developments are going. So I think a common question is, what will happen in the future? What is the role of the engineer? Will be replaced by this kind of tools? What do you think, Timo?
It's like I'm both very excited. I'm also worried because like how fast the development is going. I find it hard to keep up with what's going on. I've used ChatGPT for the last year, and even like the first version of it compared to this version that there is now it's a world of difference, especially when it comes to coding and programming.
Yeah.
But I heard one quite funny comment from someone working with IT support, and he was like, "I'm not worried at all. Like as long as people can't write a ticket explaining their problem, like we don't have to worry about large language models like ChatGPT, because the real skill in using these tools is to be able to define what you actually want." So I think there's going to be a whole new field, a whole new speciality of before, like you have to be able to learn how to Google, like write a good Google request to get to what you wanted. The new skill you need is to be able to write a good prompt to get what you need. And right now, as it is now, I think you get some code out, and sometimes you actually just want to sit and fiddle and experiment with it to get closer to what you want. And that's faster to do in the code than like have the computer do it. So I think you need a bit of you need some programming skill to extract the information that you're getting from an AI engine like this.
Yeah, I think that's a very good good point. Yeah, I can really agree. I think a big part of sort of programming is splitting up sort of big problem in smaller problems, and then I think at the end those smaller problems can be really well I think handled by these kind of tools. But sort of that it automatically really solves the big problem, well, maybe I'm naive in and how fast it will go, but I think that's still something that that's really required doing yourself.
Yes.
Hey, and one other question related to that, I think that's also a very fair point that was in the chat, was confidentiality. Of course, a lot of people work on confidential information on a project. Yeah, how do you look at that? Do you have any advice on that?
Maybe in the context of ChatGPT, yeah? That's the
Yeah.
question. So when
Yes.
you use ChatGPT with project information,
I would say any document that, if shared with the public, would bring you in trouble to have shared, should not be uploaded to another company's server.
No.
So, for example, I have for example, stuff related to my economy and to my clients and stuff like that, or very like private projects, I would never upload there. Probably nothing would happen, but out of precaution. But dummy data is your friend, or like half complete data sets, or just wrong data sets. Sometimes, like, I can have an Excel sheet where I change the confidential information to something else, or just only like just delete 90% of the data. So there's like, you can't extract any information from the data anymore. Like, you can kind of make the data useless, but still be enough for you to be able to develop the tool. But having this thought, if the people concerned about this document suddenly saw that I posted it online, would I then be in trouble? If yes, then don't upload it.
Good. Yeah, really good advice. I think it's really, really important to be aware of these kind of things. Yeah.
maybe to add to that, we also have the same questions from our clients. We also use like this kind of models, and it's possible also to host it like privately, so the data doesn't go to another person's server, and it's not used for training. So there are possible technical solutions for that too. We have the last question. It's from Matthijs. We have a lot of nice words for you. So a lot of people are saying, hey, thanks, Timo, great presentation.
Thank you.
And the last question is, actually, I have seen many useful tools and libraries in your presentations. So the things you have been shown, Timo. Are people able to find those scripts somewhere and use those?
No, and actually for different reasons. Like this, the car tool, I think, I'm not sure I actually satisfy the like that it's one that this website actually wants you to be using. I just tested it today. I made a LinkedIn post about it 2 months ago, and I can see that they have now put in a human checker on their web page after that, so it doesn't work anymore anyway. But also some of the other tools, I'm generally cautious with sharing things that I've done. For example, like some of them were done under one, like my first employment with Big, it was done in my free time, so it's kind of mine, but I also don't want to share it publicly because I was employed somewhere at that point. So I'm just very cautious not to bring myself in any trouble there.
Cool. Yeah, but maybe it's nice because I think you also, for example, you use, of course, Jupyter Notebook a lot, I see. And maybe also the libraries, the Python libraries that you use. Yeah, maybe it's just nice to share those kind of things at least, because I think, for example, Jupyter Notebook, those kind of things I think can be super useful when you start with Python.
All the packages and tools that I use is definitely something that I can easily share. The last vibration tool I shared is actually like, that is one, like, it's one that I could potentially share because it's done after I started my own company. But it's also one of those where I've spent, like, I'm always in two minds with that, because it's also something that has a huge value now. So I can share all the tools I'm using, and I'll have a think about the open sourcing some of it, what I can at least.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Timo. Time is up, but thanks a lot for your presentation.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think I can recommend everybody, if you're a structural engineer wanting to learn Python, I think you're at the right place. At Timo, also, follow him online. I think you on LinkedIn, you post really interesting stuff as well. And
Thank you.
yeah, and I hope your car keeps working, Timo.
I hope so as well, because now my tool doesn't work anymore. So how will I find a new car? It better
Exactly.
keep working, right?
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Bye, Timo. It was a
bye,
pleasure.
Timo.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
So, bye-bye.
Bye.
So for everybody, we now have a break of 15 minutes. So in, well, actually 14 minutes, we will continue with the next presentation in this room. Thank you.